Hello, Kevin.
Hi, how are you?
All right. Testing the other. I don't know, Peter, you still there? Yeah. Yeah. Available. The power. Not necessarily funded. Money for thankful for that, asking questions we have.
Hi. What, to the meeting? I'm on it. No, I'm muting. I'm muting it, so.
Any way to do that? Bill, any way to explain that?
There's nobody talking. Now somebody's talking through a mic.
Kevin, it's Ellen. I have a question for you. Kevin?
Yeah, I'm on the phone right now, Ellen. I'll get to you in just 1 minute.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you something about the screen.
You have to either turn up the volume on your speakers or the volume on the computer itself.
Kevin? Okay. Okay. I'm off now. No, I just want to know the view that you're seeing. Are you controlling the view right now, that it's split screen, or whether everybody's in? Ah, okay. I wasn't sure how that worked. Right. Okay, no, because it's different than Zoom. Zoom, you could do different views. I didn't know whether we could control it here. Okay. No, because I see a four screen. You're in my top left, and yeah. Okay.
I know, Ellen, it would be nice if we could see everybody.
Exactly.
But
Rose, Rose, I saw you big and clear. You were like half my screen before.
oh, God. No, it's, I know on Zoom, you could have everybody on there, but this makes it a little more awkward. Even when we're there, because this is the first time I'm doing it by video, you can't, you know, you only see four people. So sometimes someone's, if they start to speak, they usually show up, but it's...
Yes, I didn't know if it was a setting that I should have been aware of, because I noticed that. Okay.
And you're doing okay? Everybody in your family's all right?
Yes, thank you. You too?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, just missing seeing everybody.
I know. Well, I've had my little grandchildren because Mommy and Daddy are working. My son-in-law, God bless him, is at the medical examiner's office, so it's been not good. It worries me to death. But, you know, and his job really isn't more administrative there, but he's been, you know, sadly moving bodies and just sad.
Yeah, sorry. I hope everybody stays safe and well.
Now, I lost your picture for some reason.
I did that.
Oh, okay.
You
And
can
I'm going to take my, I'm going to put myself on mute too. So,
And your picture's not on either, by the way.
oh yeah, oh, okay. I can still see me, but
Your camera's not on, I don't think.
Unless you don't see because you're not on, because you turned you off. I'm not sure, but it's all right.
Okay. Do you see me?
Yes, now I do.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't.
Right. I turned it off until the meeting started.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna put mine down too, and I'm gonna mute mine. All right, you take care.
All right. You too.
Thanks.
Okay. Then camera off, the camera's on.
Arnie, we can hear you and see you.
These, they were the red on the bone.
Okay. Go in the
They
back.
have a bone. They're not easily.
Get out of here.
You need to get Billy. 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 Come on. Sis, phone. Trying to make them output. And not doing it. I just wanted them to. I just needed to tell you that Billy had a bone.
Okay.
Billy had a bone. I can't get any food.
Hello? All right. Am I being heard? Is my audio working? I can hear you, Arnie. Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. What? I do.
Kevin, is my audio on?
I can hear you, Denise. This is Bill. I can hear you.
Thank you.
Before 6 o'clock, so I don't know if that's late. And then, we go to find steakhouse, you know, and walk. Yes, yes. We got the curbside. I don't know what, I called them three times. But the right number is right.
I'm calling the meeting of the Nassau County Legislature to order. Ask everyone to please rise. Legislator Ferretti, would you lead us in the pledge? Please remain standing for a moment of silence. I guess if we wanted to go through all the names of the people that we've lost in our county, it would take several hours to do so, but I just wanted to highlight several of our leaders who we lost this past week. Sergeant Spinoza of the Sands Point Police Department, Mayor Robert McNamara from the village of Flower Hill, and Bishop Watson we lost this week. I don't know if anyone else wants to add any names to the list, unfortunately. Well, let's keep them and their families in our prayers, and all those who are suffering from this terrible virus. Thank you. Okay, we'll be having our regular monthly meeting at this time. Again, we've taken precautions. The facility has been cleaned and re-cleaned and cleaned again. Members of the public are not here. There are several legislators who are here. We're spread out appropriate distances. We have legislators who are not here are, however, participating by video conferencing. And we have a very, very, very limited number of staff here from the administration and from our legislative staff. And this is a large room, so we have plenty of room to proceed. I'm going to act as clerk, call the roll. Minority Leader Abrahams. Okay, we'll go back to him. He had issues with the sound last time around. Legislator Bino. Legislator Salage. I don't hear him either. Legislator Ford. I see them all. Is anyone who's participating remotely, can you all hear? Could any one of you hear? I think they're all muted. Kevin, is it possible that we have they're not getting the feed at all? What? Okay. Are they responding now?
Do you hear me, Kevin? You hear me, Kevin?
Arnie, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
I hear you, Arnie. But I don't hear them.
Kevin called me to say he wanted me to test the order.
So they can hear each other, they just can't hear us.
Hey, Vinny,
Yes.
don't we normally, I mean, you're a veteran at this like me. Aren't we also able to see the meeting as it goes on?
Yeah, when he usually starts, but it hasn't started yet, so.
Oh, it has to be started. I thought because, like, always, like, Kevin's
They can't
always
even see
moving
us,
back
I don't
and
think.
forth, and I always see him before the meeting.
Who's speaking? Come
Oh, you
on.
can hear us.
Yeah, it's me.
Oh, I don't see. Did you
I'm
still
like-
have your beard?
Hold on, I have my camera on.
I don't have your video on, come on. Now that,
Is that better?
yeah.
Just beard, that's
So,
all we
Vinny,
say.
Tilt your phone up a little bit, though,
When
come
the
on.
meeting started, we had a chance to. Is that Kevin? Hey, Kevin.
All right, now can
Is
you
it
hear
okay
us?
that we don't see the meeting though?
And usually, once it starts, it usually kicks
Oh,
over
okay.
to see
I
the meeting.
I remember it being there.
I'm also lost.
We haven't heard
Oh,
anything.
yeah, we haven't heard anything. I hear you now, Kevin, but I don't hear the meeting.
Yeah, I don't hear it either.
Yeah, testing.
Now we-
Can you hear us?
Yeah. If you look at the participants, you can see who has their mic on and whose mics are off. Just hit the thing that says participants. We hear you.
Now I see you.
I hear him on
I
the-
see you, Kevin.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, all right.
They can't hear me.
Somebody's dog is on in the background.
It's Arnie's.
No, they're not here. I locked the doors.
Oh, somebody else.
Kevin, you hear my audio? Kevin? Yeah. Cannot. I hear everybody else on this, but I don't hear Rich.
Anyone home there? Kavan, do you hear me? Anyone there here? No.
Maybe somebody else can speak, someone a different mic.
I'm here. No, correct.
The days is not audible.
I can't hear anybody on the day.
How many people are at the meeting? Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Kev.
I got Carrie A. I can hear you.
Yes, I can.
Carrie A, can you hear this?
No, I can't hear them.
I don't hear the dais.
Yeah, I don't hear the dais.
We could have our own meeting.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Can anybody hear now?
Yes.
There we go.
Now we hear you.
Hey, you guys online, do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. We are in business.
Great.
Now all we need is the presiding officer. Where do you go? Okay.
I can watch the meeting through my computer.
You can't?
Yeah, but Vinny, I don't think that timing's right on that.
No, it's not. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I got the day.
See, I asked the question. I knew something was up because I know normally you can hear them even when they're rustling back and forth.
Okay.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. I got the day. See, I asked the question. I know normally you can hear them even when they're rustling back and forth.
Can everybody still hear from this mic?
Yes.
Alrighty then.
Yes.
Let's go through the roll again. Starting with Minority Leader Abrahams.
Here.
Here. Okay, great. Legislator Bino. Legislator Salage.
Here.
Okay. Legislator Ford.
Here.
Legislator Muley. Legislator Gaylor.
Present.
Let's see you. Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell. Legislator Muscarella.
Here.
Okay, I'm here. Legislator Birnbaum.
Here.
Legislator DeRiggi Whitten. Legislator Kennedy.
Here.
Legislator McKevitt. Here. Legislator Schaefer.
Here.
Legislator Ferretti. Here. Legislator Drucker.
Here.
Legislator Walker.
Here.
Yes, that's okay. Legislator Lafazan. Legislator Stephen Rhodes. Okay. We already started the meeting to those who are remote. I know you didn't catch the first part of it, but we did have the pledge and a moment of silence for some of those, unfortunately, who have lost their lives in this epidemic. All right. What we're going to do is consider the emergencies first. So we're going to go to the emergency calendar, and the first one is emergency on clerk item number 107 of 2020. It's an emergency for a local law to delay the imposition of penalties and interest for the late payment of school taxes due on April 1st for the 2020 tax year. Legislator Rhodes makes a motion to establish the emergency. Legislator Ferretti seconds that motion. So on the emergency, because I think it relates into the item itself. In this country, 22 million Americans have lost their jobs. That's one out of every 7 workers. Service industry was probably hit first because of the fact that the stores and retail, for the most part, were closed down. But this has touched every sector of our workforce. In Long Island, at least 175,000 have filed for unemployment. We have heard that there is a spike in demand at our food pantries. Thousands of residents are struggling with the financial crunch and having to make decisions on which bills to pay. And sometimes it comes down to groceries, medicine, and other necessary expenses. And our tax receivers have been inundated with calls from both the business community and individuals, residents, who are asking for some relief. Our small mom-and-pop businesses have been crushed by this. There have been federal programs that have been proposed, passed, but have not reached the vast majority of individuals and businesses. Also, in terms of those filing for unemployment, the process has been cumbersome, and some of our residents have not been able to get their unemployment benefits. We learned last week that New York pause will continue to May 15th, and that there will be a phased reopening after that. Under current law, the deadline for paying your taxes is May 11th. After May 11th, people who pay late are charged interest. After May 31st, people who pay late and businesses who pay late are charged penalties. The law is designed to give residents and small businesses an extra 30 days to pay without being hit with interest and penalties. In other words, it doesn't change the obligation to pay your taxes, which everyone must do, but it gives them breathing room of an additional 30 days while these issues continue to work their way through the system of our government. It is our hope that our economy can begin to reopen and that the burden on our businesses and residents will be eased, so that by doing this, again, it's a small matter of relief to the residents, to the businesses, to hopefully get beyond the next hurdle and when things begin to open up. So that's the basis for this legislation. Does anyone want to speak to the emergency and legislation at this time?
I would like to, Rich.
Sure. Go ahead, Devon.
So first and foremost, we side with our residents and to ensure that residents that are going through the very difficult time, they have the opportunity to try to figure out their finances as the county tries to figure out its finances, and the county and the schools will try to figure out theirs as well. So we believe that they offer without penalty property taxes in nationally throughout the state will provide some level of relief. Obviously, as the state will see if they will reopen someone else after May 15th, that doesn't provide any relief for people that are currently unemployed or people that are underemployed in terms of being able to provide for their families. It does provide some level of relief. However, there are some concerns, and I'm sure as well as you know, Presiding Officer, the county executive have written a letter to the governor asking the governor to do this. The way the letter reads from our perspective is that the county legislature does not have the ability to do this. I'm sure we'll go through the debate and discussion, as well as hear from the county attorney, as well as from your side in terms of where this goes. I think what's most important and what's meaningful is that the action that is taken today can actually be done. I don't want to present any level of false hope to our residents. I want to be able to have some level of concrete, definitive response to them that what we actually do will happen for them. I don't want to create any level of uncertainty. We're already very uncertain. And I think it's imperative that regardless of what's debated or discussed today, the leaders of the legislature, myself, as well as you, as well as all 19 of us, move forward because we are joining with our residents. And it's important that residents stand in their best interests. However, we also should take the steps to make sure that we are not preempted from doing what we plan to do today. And if we are preempted, we need to use this action as 19 members to go forward and make sure that if there is state if there is a state legislation that's required or an executive order by the governor, we need to make sure that is done in a timely manner before May 10th and May 11th and those subsequent dates. And if that's necessary, I join also with the county executive in her letter to ensure that that's going to happen as well. But thank you again.
Okay. We had written to the governor last week. The receivers of taxes actually wrote to the governor before that. And actually there's a letter that we're going to make part of the record from receiver of taxes, Bravado, in favor of this action. So if the governor does act and issues an executive order, it obviously will preempt what we're doing. If the governor, by emergency, passes an executive order, then obviously ours gets put to the wayside. But short of that, I mean, we've had conversations with our counsel, and he's thoroughly researched this, and because of the unique nature of Nassau County, we have the ability under our administrative code to vary this. So we are confident with respect to the legalities of this. I would send I have the same concern that you have, however, that before this is actually passed and signed into law, that residents have to understand that the current May 11th deadline is still in place. So even if we take emergency action today, even if we pass this legislation, until the legislation is signed into law or by the expiration of time allowed to become law, then the May 11th deadline is in place. And we intend to communicate in every way we can that this is the action we've taken to give some relief, but until those things happen, the residents have to understand that May 11th is still the deadline that they have to meet. Anyone else want to speak on this emergency? Legislator Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. It's just, as the presiding officer indicated, we did communicate with the governor's office via letter. We haven't received any response from the governor's office. So, at this point, because we're meeting today, I think it's important for us to take action, whatever action we can take to ensure that this takes place. Obviously, the best possible scenario is for the governor simply to act by executive order. But we have no indication as of yet that that's going to happen, or as I said, any communication with the governor's office. We're here today. I think we should act today to try and protect our residents and give them some breathing room in light of the tremendous financial strains that are put on both our residential taxpayers as well as our commercial taxpayers, our business owners, as a result of the shutdown from COVID-19. And if the governor acts after that, then so be it. But I think it's important for us to take that action today as a first step towards protecting them.
Anyone else? Legislator Ridgeway.
No, I don't know if I did, but I'm back.
I don't know if that was Kavan.
All
right, Kavan, you want to go forward up? All right, go
I don't know
ahead.
how we're going to do this, but if we can get the letter that the county executive wrote to the governor as part of the record as well, I think that will help things as well.
We don't have that as of yet, but I'm sure that we will get it, and we will then make it part of the record.
Okay.
Let's do as you would.
I mean, we all support doing anything we can to help alleviate the financial stress that everyone's feeling, and a 3-week extension is definitely warranted, in my opinion. But just from listening to I know Steve Ballone mentioned it today. I'm sure we're not the only county in this position, and I know that the governor seems to want to do everything in unison. So hopefully that will come through, and hopefully by us doing this, we're not superseded. And I know there've been some questions regarding the Baldwin Act, and we're kind of in a position where we're hoping that we have the authority to do what we're doing today. But our intentions are good, so we're going to support it also.
Thank you. Any other legislators want to speak on? Anyone else who's participating via a video conference want to speak on it? All right, hearing none, I will okay, just need a vote on the emergency. All in favor of establishing the emergency signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed? All right, hearing none. The emergency is established by a vote of 19 to nothing. Now the item comes before us. 107 of 2020 is a local law to delay the imposition of penalties and interest for late payment of school taxes due on April 1st for the 2020 tax year. Moved by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell, seconded by Legislator McKevitt. Any further debate or discussion on this item?
Rich, I'm sorry, did you say April 1st?
It's, yes. I mean, originally, I guess the window opens on April 1st and closes on May 11th, so I think.
So just to be, anything that's due on the 11th, right?
Yes, I mean, essentially,
clear.
this relates to the taxes that ought to be paid by May 11th without interest or penalty. And then, again, we have that letter from Receiver Bravado, which we'll make part of the record and support. Any other debate or discussion at this time? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
All right. Okay. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Passes by a vote of 19 to nothing. Clerk, item 108 of 2020, a local law temporarily, this will be we need to establish an emergency with respect to a local law temporarily extending certain deadlines relating to the filing of annual statements of financial disclosure for the 2019 reporting year due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. The Legislator Lafazan makes a motion to establish the emergency, seconded by Legislator Millet. Anyone want to discuss this or the emergency itself? Yeah, can we get an explanation of this one? Katie, is that you, or is that...
Good afternoon, Kevin Hardiman from the County Attorney's Office. Item 10820 is a proposed local law to provide extensions of time for county officers and employees to file annual statements of financial disclosure for the 2019 reporting year, for the Board of Ethics to compile and file the list of policymakers who are required to file such statements for the 2019 reporting year. Nassau County Administrative Code Section 2243 requires certain designated county officers and employees to file annual statements of financial disclosure with the Board of Ethics by May 15th of each year for the prior calendar year. The code also requires the Board of Ethics to compile and file with the clerk of the legislature a list of officers and employees holding policy-making positions who will be required to submit financial disclosure statements. As you are aware, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a state of emergency has been declared in Nassau County and for the entire state of New York. Recognizing the impact of the pandemic, the federal and state government have extended their respective tax filing deadlines from April 15th to July 15th, 2020. In light of those extensions and the fact that those filings are key to the completion of financial disclosure statements, an extension of the deadlines associated with the filing of financial disclosure statements for the 2019 calendar year is warranted. The proposed local law extends the deadline for filing the list of policymakers for the 2019 reporting year to June 30th of 2020 and extends the date to file financial disclosure statements for the 2019 reporting year from May 15th to August 15th, 2020. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? I think he's established the basis for the emergency. Any questions from anyone participating on video? Hearing none. All in favor of the emergency signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. The emergency has been established. As to the local law, it's 108 of 2020. It's to a local law to temporarily extend certain deadlines relating to the filing of annual statements of financial disclosure for the 2019 reporting year due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. Moved by Legislator Bino, seconded by Legislator Divigi-Whitten. So the local law is now before us. Any debate or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? None. It passes by a vote of 19 to nothing. And last emergency that we have this afternoon is item 110 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the county of Nassau to file an amendment to the 2019 Housing and Urban Development Action Plan and to file an application for federal assistance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Legislator McCavitt makes a motion to establish the emergency, seconded by Legislator Ferretti. All in favor of establishing the emergency signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Those opposed, the emergency has been established. I'm just going to call the item now at this time, Kevin. 110 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the County of Nassau to amend the 2019 Housing and Urban Development Action Plan and to file an application for federal assistance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Moved by Legislator DeRiggi-Whitten, seconded by Legislator Rhodes. Okay, Kevin, it's before us now.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for entertaining the item. I have been asked to go over a PowerPoint. I'm sorry, Kevin Crean, Director of the Nassau County Office of Community Development. I have been asked to go over a PowerPoint presentation that I think you've all been given a copy of. This explains the funding that's coming to the county and, in brief, what the Office of Community Development is planning on utilizing the funding for. So do you have all this in front of you?
I don't have mine in front of me. I know it was emailed to us last week. Thank you. Oh, you got one.
Just a 7-page
yes.
PowerPoint?
I don't know if they obviously don't have it for those on remote.
I was told they were emailed it at home.
It might be up, yeah, it's on their emails.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can go over it. It's a little self-explanatory as well. Whenever you're ready.
I think we're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is the CARES Act funding. The CARES Act is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, which was passed by Congress and signed by the President. Under the Federal CARES Act, there's $12 billion set aside for assistance to communities that's being distributed to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So the Office of Community Development here at Nassau County is the administering agency for several formula grant programs that are, as an entitlement under the programs, we receive funding annually. So the CARES Act included a total of $12 billion being distributed under a couple of different formulas. So the funding that we're dealing with today as part of the amendment to the action plan is only one of those formula allocations. It was $5 billion under the Community Development Block Grant Program alone under 3 pots. So $2 billion was set aside using the same formula that Nassau County receives its allocation every year. $1 billion was set aside for states to address the emergency. And then a second pot of $2 billion was set aside for another formula that has not been fully determined yet. HUD is working on that, but it will put more emphasis on those communities that have been more severely impacted economically and by housing impact. So Nassau County should do better, actually, under that formula than the first round. So under the Federal CARES Act, we're receiving funding under 2 different programs, the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Emergency Solutions Grants Program. So I'm now moving to slide number 3. Under the Community Development Block Grant funding, Nassau County is slated to receive about $8.5 million in funding and $4.25 million under the Emergency Solutions Grants Program. So this funding is in addition to the money we're receiving this year, which is our federal fiscal year 2020 allocation. All right, so as I mentioned, there'll be a second round, which we have not been apprised of yet what our funding will be under that round, but that should be coming shortly. So moving on to slide 4, the Office of Community Development right now is in the middle of, it's almost toward the tail end of our 5-year consolidated planning process, where we're receiving funding under the 3 regular programs, Community Development Block Grant, Home, and Emergency Solutions. So we're not dealing with that today. That's still on our regular schedule. We plan to come before the legislature committees on June 8th and then the full ledge on June 29th for that funding. So what we're here for on the amendment just involves the funding going out to the CARES Act, the COVID funding. All right, so we have been hosting a series of meetings for the last several months, starting at the end of fiscal year 2019, in preparation for the 5-year consolidated plan, which puts us in a good position to respond to this COVID-19 funding and be able to get it out quickly, because we're already dealing with other county agencies, developers, other municipalities, and nonprofits who generally work with us on these programs. But we've expanded that list of stakeholders utilizing the COVID-19 funding and working with DSS and other agencies to make sure that this money goes where it's most needed. But we have continued with our consolidated planning, and we are having a virtual meeting, which we have scheduled for next week. And we've also opened up our application process. We have an online application process that we started last year. This is our second year for fiscal year 2020. We've reopened it now to accept applications for the COVID funding. So based upon the feedback we've received for these various meetings, we have established some priority allocations of funding, really set-asides of funding in different categories to best utilize the CDBG and the ESG COVID funding. So on slide number 5, we list some of the priority activities. These include public services, where the monies would be utilized by food banks, health services, and some of the eligible items under this criteria would be payment of staff, purchase of personal protective equipment and other health equipment, mental health and substance abuse, primarily for counseling, employment training, child care services, tenant-landlord counseling, which would go to address some of the issues with putting off evictions and people who are unable to pay their rent at this time. We're also considering utilizing funding to establish an economic development loan fund, which could be utilized by businesses to retain or generate new jobs in the county, so to help get the economy back going. And then also some funding for public facilities improvements and planning. The idea behind the public facility improvements would be to, again, as a job creation activity, to get people back working and trying to stimulate the economy. Because it's CDBG and Emergency Solutions Grant funding, this is all from HUD. The same criteria applies as far as benefit to low and moderate income people, although there have been some waivers that have been granted by HUD. We are expecting some additional waivers, but they've been slow in coming. But slide number 6 does go over a couple of the changes that were in the bill that was passed by Congress. So under the Community Development Block Grant Program, it eliminated the cap on public services. Generally, there's a 15% cap on the allocation that can be used for public service activities. That's been eliminated, so it allows us to push more money out to the nonprofit providers who are actually on the front lines with responding to the COVID crisis. It does also extends the deadline for submission. We're not planning on taking advantage of those extended deadlines. We want to comply with our regular schedule so that we get this money, receive the allocations from HUD as quickly as possible, and can also pass it on to the organizations that are helping us to address the crisis. It removes the requirement to hold in-person hearings. So as I mentioned, we are having virtual hearing coming up on our regular round and on the COVID money. And it allows us to combine use. One of the great things that the Act does is it allows us to utilize future funding for past expenses. So we can use the money that we're receiving now to reimburse organizations for expenses that have been incurred during the crisis period. So we can go back to March for that. It's not just funding expenses going forward. Some of the items that HUD is not able to waive includes fair housing requirements, non-discrimination, labor, which would include Davis-Bacon wage rates in some instances, and environmental issues. So we are right now already working on performing environmental reviews so that they're completed and in place when the money is available. So on the last slide, we deal with the Emergency Solutions Grants funding. Again, it's about a little bit more than $4 million received by Nassau County. Some of the waivers that have been issued for that program is it deviates from the regular procurement standards. The administrative allowance is a little bit higher than the regular. There's no match requirement. Generally, there's a 100% match requirement for nonprofit, generally our self-shelter providers. That match requirement has been eliminated for this funding. And it also increases the income limit. One of the issues we have, we fund a homeless prevention program every year with the Emergency Solutions Grant funding, where we're able to help people who are not able to pay their rent because of a temporary change in their income. But the income limits for that program are 30% of AMI, which is very low, so that we're limited in the number of people we can assist. The COVID-19 funding allows us to go to 50% of AMI, so it will greatly expand the number of people who will qualify for this funding. And with the number of people who are right now having a difficult time paying their rent. We do expect this to be in great demand. All right. So those funds can be used not only to pay rent, but can also pay back utility costs as well. So I wanted to make a point of that. So that, in essence, is the summary of the funding that we're receiving. What we're asking the legislature to do today is to vote on the amendment. As I said, we do plan to come back to the legislature in 2 weeks for the supplemental appropriation so this money can be available. But we wanted to start the process and inform you of what our plans are for utilizing the funding.
So if you come back in 2 weeks for the supplemental appropriation, we approve that, how quickly can these monies be put into the system, gotten to individuals, to food shelters, et cetera?
This is always, the HUD funding is always a reimbursement basis, so the county fronts the money and then we reimburse ourselves from HUD. So as soon as the money is available on the county side, we can enter into contracts. In some cases, we have contracts already with some of the vendors, so it's a matter of amending contracts. But we can authorize the expenditure of funds. In many cases, we'll be reimbursing expenses that have already been incurred. So as soon as those contracts can get routed, we can start reimbursing funds by the vouchering process.
Very good. Any other questions? Legislator Reggie Whitten?
On page 5, or slide 5, I know you just said that you don't know the exact numbers yet, but do you have any idea how much you expect to have for the public service?
We actually have that in the amendment. We've itemized it in the amendment, which you should have as well. It was with the resolution. So on the third page of the amendment, we have listed, broken out those public service categories, and then the dollar amounts that are right now set aside for applications. So under food banks, $1 million. Health services, $600,000.
Wait, hold on one second. I don't have that.
You don't have that?
Maybe it was emailed.
Then the resolution?
Is this it?
Katie Horse from the administration. It was filed as backup to the clerk item that was filed, to the resolution.
I guess. Do you have any additional copies? I know the majority leader has it. I can give you mine. The item? Okay. I don't see it. All right. Well, we'll have to, I don't, all right. Oh, all right. Thank you. Right. This is it. I have it. All right. There's no need for you to read it. Thank you, though.
Thank you. So that page 3 is the block grant, and then page 4, which follows, is the emergency solutions grant funding.
Are there any other questions? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor of item 110 of 2020 signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for support.
Okay, then we'll go to the regular calendar of the legislature. We have received some public comments submitted by email. We are not going to read those public comments. However, we are going to make them part of the record, including comments by John Budnick and Peter Gaffney. They will be part of the legislative record, and they will be circulated to all legislators. So the first thing we do with the full calendar is call the consent items, which are items that passed through committee, the Rules Committee 2 weeks ago, and it's been agreed by the majority and the minority that no further debate or discussion is required on these items at this time. Item 3, Ordinance 30. Item 4, Ordinance 31. Item 5, Ordinance 32. Item 6, Ordinance 33. Item 7, Ordinance 34. Item 8, Ordinance 35. Item 9, Ordinance 36. Item 10, Ordinance 37. Item 11, Ordinance 38. Item 12, Ordinance 39. Item 13, Ordinance 40. Item 14, Ordinance 41. Item 15, Ordinance 42. Item 18, Resolution 37. Item 19, Resolution 38. Item 20, Resolution 39. Item 21, Resolution 40. Item 22, Resolution number 41. Since I can see Ellen Birnbaum at the moment, nobody else, I'm going to make you the sponsor. Seconded by Laura Schaefer. Any debate or discussion on these consent items?
No.
Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. All right.
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Item 1 is a hearing on a proposed local law number, no, it doesn't have a number yet, a local law requiring legislative approval for compensation paid in connection with the compromise or settlement of a proceeding in condemnation or eminent domain. That's moved by Legislator Bino, seconded by Legislator DeReggie Whitten. That's a motion to open the hearing. All in favor of opening the hearing signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing is open. You want to speak on this?
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This bill was sponsored by Minority Leader and myself, and in the interest of trying to close what we believe to be a gap in the process when the county pursues condemnation. It was very evident to us in a recent transaction that was brought to the legislature where some time ago there was a condemnation started for a property in Long Beach, and the legislature was provided an appraisal at the time stating that the property was valued at about $750,000, and later the county ended up paying $3.6 million. And so there was quite a discrepancy between the appraised value and the purchase price. So we believe that these items need to come back to the legislature so that as the fiduciaries of the county, that we can play a role in making a decision whether we would want to move forward on a transaction. So this is just to give the legislature an opportunity to weigh in on those decisions once the negotiations have been concluded. And I believe this, again, will allow us to have a better control over how much money is being spent on transactions.
We support this also. Any time that we're giving the legislature another ability to have a vote on a process rather than early on and then letting it go without any additional legislative action is not the ideal situation. So we prefer to have the legislature more involved, the legislature having more opportunities to vote, more opportunities for hearings, and more opportunities for greater transparency. Anyone else want to speak on this? No? Okay. A motion to close the hearing made by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Ferretti. All in favor of closing the hearing signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? Aye. Sorry, I got in my head. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Item 2 is the actual vote on the proposed local law, which will require legislative approval for compensation paid in connection with the compromise or settlement of a proceeding in condemnation or eminent domain. Again, Legislator Bino moves it, seconded by Minority Leader Abrahams. Any further debate or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that passes unanimously. We have 2 more items on our calendar. Item 16, Ordinance 43. It's an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance and to transfer appropriations heretofore made to reconcile the county's financial records for the budget year 2019. All right. After this went through committees 2 weeks ago, these transfers of appropriations, the administration submitted comprehensive amendments. Oh, I didn't do the motion yet? Yeah. Okay. All right, so we need a motion to start with, obviously. Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell moves it, seconded by Legislator Muley. Now we need an amendment on that motion. Again, this came to us a couple weeks ago through Rules Committee. This is the year-end budget transfers that are made by the county. So since between the Rules Committee today, the administration have made substantial changes in terms of where the money's coming from, where's it going to, et cetera. So we need a motion to amend by Legislator McKevitt, seconded by Legislator Bino. Let's see. So all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So the amendment passes. Now we have this supplemental appropriation to go for a vote as amended. Any further debate or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Item 17 is a resolution authorizing execution of a tax exemption pilot agreement between the county and Self-Help Bergen Housing Development Fund Company. Moved by Legislator Muley, seconded by Legislator Ford. So that is before us. We had a presentation a couple of weeks ago by Mr. Deegan. I don't know if he's still online for today's proceeding.
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Do we have any questions on this end? Legislator Rhodes?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Mr. Deegan, can you just, I know we had a presentation 2 weeks ago when we considered this in committees. Can you just refresh our recollection, though? This is currently vacant property?
Yes, that's correct.
And prior to the execution of the pilot agreement, was this property on the tax rolls, not on the tax rolls?
It is currently on the tax rolls, and the level of taxation is approximately $25,000, and that level of current taxation would stay intact and continue to be paid to the affected taxing jurisdictions. That would escalate at 2% a year thereafter.
So the schools, for example, would continue to receive the revenue that they currently receive from the property?
That's correct. And obviously, there's no new school-age children being added because of senior housing.
Okay. And this approximately how many units is it?
45 units.
Okay. And just
44 of which are actually for residents, 1 unit for the superintendent or your manager.
Do we have an estimate with respect to how many construction jobs this particular project is going to create?
We do. Let me just see. Let's see my notes here. I mean, it'll be significant for sure because it's a pretty significant new construction project. I don't see it here in my notes, so I don't want to misspeak to what the number is, but I'm sure it's going to be very significant.
Do we know what the cost of the overall construction is?
In terms of the project budget?
Right.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have my entire file with me, so I don't have that number, but it's in the tens of millions. And it's, right now we're on the precipice of a closing, so if we can get this exemption approved, we would be able to close probably in the next week or two. And, the plan, we have all the approvals from the village, so the plan would be to get this construction going immediately, which obviously is something that
So obviously we can create jobs right away as a result of the approval of this project.
Yes. And
at least
it's,
construction
100% affordable, so it would be considered essential construction, which would allow it to go forward immediately.
And do we know, incidentally, once the facility is built, do we know how many permanent caretaker jobs there'd be, administration jobs there would be?
I don't have the exact number. It's it's primarily a residential facility, but there is staff support in terms of recreation, social, health services that are rendered on site. So it's not like an assisted living or nursing home where it's very significant, but there's certainly a number of full-time employees that will be employed at the facility going forward to service the residents that are there.
Okay, so just so I understand, we have a vacant property that we have someone that's willing to develop. We'll put into the project a construction that's going to cost in the tens of millions of dollars. We'll create construction jobs. We'll create some level of permanent caretaker jobs and administration jobs, and there would be no loss in taxable revenue to the individual taxing jurisdictions through the payment of pilot?
That's correct.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Legislator.
Any other questions? Legislator Muley.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As I stated in committees, I am very much in favor of this project. It is currently an empty lot. It's right by the library. It's just a couple blocks from the train station. It's an ideal location for senior housing. We all know that there's a tremendous need for senior housing. I've seen the renderings for this project, and we've been talking about this for many, many years. It's a very exciting project that I think will be looked upon as a model for future, or it should be looked upon as a model for future developments of affordable senior housing. So I'm very much in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, just one question. Without this program under the New York Private Housing Finance Law and the payment of pilots, without that, would this project get done?
Absolutely not. This pilot is absolutely necessary. I mean, it is underwritten down to a very slight margin of error right now. So without this exemption, this project cannot happen.
Okay.
And that's really what's holding up the closing and everything else, and it can start. It's just this last step here.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor of Resolution 36, 2020, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right, so it passes by a vote of 18-1.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Legislator Muscarella makes a motion to adjourn the legislative meeting, seconded by Legislator Walker. All in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
We're in adjournment. We're going to move right into the Rules Committee. We'll have the same rules as we had last 2 weeks ago. I guess we'll have the committee members who are here and participating remotely may vote, but anyone else who's online and wants to have a comment or a question may do so. So we're going to open the Rules Committee, call the roll. Legislator Bino. Here. Legislator DeReggie Whitten. Here. Legislator Abrahams, Minority Leader Abrahams. Legislator Schaefer.
Here.
Legislator Rhodes. Here. Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell. Here. And myself, we have a quorum. We have 3 contracts on. There may be a contract or 2 later that's on table, but to start things off, B11, E60, and E62 of 2020. B11 is a resolution authorizing the county executive to award and execute a contract between the county and Pratt Brothers. E60 is the same with respect to Lero Engineers, Inc. E62 is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute a personal services agreement between the county and Lewis McLean Associates Engineers and Surveyors, moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Bino.
Good afternoon, Ken Arnold, Public Works. B11 is our priority resurfacing Phase 4 contract. We had 4 bidders. Pratt was the lowest responsible bidder. He was 7.6 below the estimate. His MWBE is at 4.2% combined.
Any questions? No questions. Okay, why don't we just move on to the next one.
E60 is a construction management contract for our Austin Boulevard project. We had 5 firms submit on this proposal. Lero was the responsible bidder. Their DBE participation goal was at 10%, which they are meeting for New York State.
Okay. Any questions on E60 of 2020? Okay. Let's move right along.
So E62 is a design contract for Wantor Avenue resurfacing and traffic safety improvements. We had 7 firms submitted. McLean Associates was the responsible bidder. His WBE goal, participation is at 9%. We did pull this contract out at one point because we had to look at some information that came to us. We resolved it, and we're comfortable recommending award to this contract.
All right, any questions on EE 62?
I do.
Legislator Rhodes.
Can you just, where on Want Avenue is this project going to take place? Is this the entire stretch from Park to Hempstead Turnpike?
Yes, it is, and this includes the intersection of Old Jerusalem, where we're going to look at the traffic safety issue.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of these three contracts signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, carries unanimously. B7 of 2020, we're going to need a motion to untable. Let's see, who wants to untable?
So moved.
Who was that?
Laura.
Oh, Laura, okay. Moved by Laura Schaefer. Seconded by Minority Leader Abrahams. That's a motion to untable. All in favor of untabling signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? It's untabled by a unanimous vote. So this is the resolution regarding the award of a contract to Seaford Avenue Corp. You want to speak to that, Ken?
Sure. So B7 is our on-call requirements contract for emergency plumbing work in the county. We had two bidders on this project. Seaford Avenue Plumbing was the lowest responsible bidder. The MWB will be determined by their actual work orders that are assigned to them. We did address all the Inspector General's comments, and we spoke with Local 200, and they were in good standing as of today.
Okay. All right. And the IG has gotten back to both the majority and the minority, indicating that their questions have been answered, and they have no plans to take no further action on this contract. Any questions?
I'm sorry, Presiding Officer?
Yes.
Did you just say that the Inspector General is satisfied, or you said that our comments are we're satisfied with the Inspector General comments? I just wanted to make sure for the record that the Inspector General has signed off on B7.
That's accurate, yes, and plans no further action with respect to the contract.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carries unanimously. B9, we need a motion to untable B9. We have Legislator Schaefer making that motion as well. Legislator Bino will second it. This is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute a contract between the county and 192 Branch Interior Services. Ken?
So this is a contract amendment for Branch.
I'm sorry, actually, we need a vote on the motion to untable. All in favor of untabling signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, it passes unanimously. Untable.
Okay. So this is a contract amendment for Branch Services. They are our asbestos and environmental contractor. This is an amendment to extend the contract and also add additional $500,000.
And again, this is something that the IG had looked into, had their questions answered, and were satisfied with those answers, and then plan no further action at this time.
Yes, and the department is also satisfied with the work of Branch.
Okay. Any other questions for Ken?
Just for the record, Presiding Officer?
Yep.
I heard Mr. Arnold say that he is satisfied. I just want to make sure that we disclose for the record that there were some Department of Labor issues and that the Department of Public Works is aware of the concerns and that they're satisfied still with that understanding of those concerns that came up from the Department of Labor and those violations from 2015 to the present.
Yes, the department is aware of them and we're satisfied.
Okay.
Anyone else? Hearing none. All in favor of this item signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, carries unanimously. Need a motion to adjourn by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell, seconded by Legislator Rhodes. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, carries unanimously.
you.